Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Uncle Mad. We are here for what has now become the regular traditional Friday night live stream. I guess this is how I keep the daily content going on Fridays when I don't have as much loaded up, but also it's a good time to look ahead because the weekends are being loaded up right now. We've got so much going on this weekend, so much stuff I want to talk about, and this is like a fun chance to just jump on my channel and shoot the breeze and talk about all the cool stuff that I'm going to be partaking in terms of viewing and watching and just enjoying over the weekend. Why is my hat so crooked? What's going on here? I'm gonna just maybe this way. I'll go this way. All right. Hat still looks weird. I don't know what's going on right now. All right, big weekend ahead. So much is going on. Friday night right now, going into Saturday tomorrow, loaded day all the way through Sunday. I cannot wait for everything that we have going on this weekend. It should be a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. We're going to go in chronological order. We're going to talk about the four main things that I am looking forward to this weekend. The number one thing is starting tomorrow night is going to be obviously, you know it. Nashville SC, Red Bull New York, second game of the MLS season, first away day for the boys in gold or black. Not really sure which kit they're going to be wearing tomorrow, but they're back on the road after a resounding win over the other New York team. Although this New York team that we're playing this week is technically a New Jersey team. That's a weird thing about my honorary home city of New York, is that a lot of our teams don't actually play in the state. You know, the Jets, the Giants, they play in Jersey. Red Bull, they play in Jersey. It's a whole weird thing. Me and my fellow New Yorkers, we don't like to get into it too much, but it is a thing. But that's where Nashville SC is going to be right after. Basically, it's going to be a great night because we go right from the Nashville SC Red Bull New York match pretty much right into UFC, which is going to be awesome tomorrow night. It's going to be a huge card. The return of John Jones. Looking forward to that one. And then Sunday, huge things going on Sunday. Sunday morning, 11:30, 10:30ish local time. Manchester United versus Liverpool. Later on Sunday night, AEW Revolution pay-per-view event. I cannot wait. It's gonna be a fun weekend. We're gonna get into everything. I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit condensed as much as I can today because sometimes the previews I've done on the live streams, I've been previewing like one thing, but to preview four things or discuss four things all at one time, I could talk for 6 hours if I wanted to. So I'm going to try to keep everything as condensed as I can. We're going to go in chronological order. So we're going to start with Nashville SC versus Red Bull New York tomorrow. Huge game. Excited for the game. Could not be more pumped after what the Nashville SC team, I keep saying these things. Like I said in the recent video, I called it like the Geodis Park. Maybe it should be though. Maybe it should be. Maybe we should call these things. We have the right to be the Nashville SC. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting game tomorrow after the opening game against NYCFC. Great performance. One of the best performances we've seen from Nashville SC in recent memory. I mean, like, obviously last season kind of petered off at the end, so it's not that big of a challenge to have been the best performance in a while. But like, after like about a month and a half of like a lot of negativity around some of the stuff that was going on with the club, it was great to see the actual team, come out and hit the ground running, get great results, get a good showing against NYCFC last week, 2-0 win, 3 points on the board. Red Bull, though, I think it's going to be a lot more of a challenge than what NYCFC was. For whatever reason, it seems like, and I could be completely wrong on this, like this is like maybe just like weird blotchy memory. It feels like Red Bull has always been a team that has like given Nashville SC fits. Like Houston's another one. Limited sample size because we're still so new to the league that we've only played teams so many times, but like it just feels like the three, maybe four times we've played Red Bull New York, it's always been bad. Like we've just not been able to deal with the way they press, deal with the way they are constantly pressuring on the ball, constantly like pushing, constantly doing because that doesn't really fit our method. We want the other team to basically hold the ball, and we want to be able to counterattack and run the other way whenever they turn the ball over. Red Bull wants us to have the ball, wants to press us, wants to force us into turnovers in our third and create attacking chances deep in our own third, and that seems to have never really worked well for us. I like, though, the one thing I like for us is, and it's going to be interesting because having the two pacey wingers on the outside, Fafa, Schaffelberg, as outlets that can spring quick attacks as opposed to trying to build through Red Bull's press. Just being able to like whip balls up faster to the speedy guys on the wings. That could be the thing that could like unlock our attack against Red Bull in the way that we haven't had it been able to be unlocked before. But it's going to be interesting because Gary's going to have a tough decision on his hands because Randall Leal was really, really impressive playing in kind of what you would call the Hani Mukhtar role last week. But for all intents and purposes, all reports are Hani Mukhtar is fully fit now. He's got to come back into the team. Um, does Gary stick with his system where he likes to play like kind of a hold up striker and let Haney off that player? So is it going to be Teal and Haney and Leo maybe goes to the bench? Does Leo go back into a wide position and then you use Fafa or Schaffelberg off the bench? It's kind of a luxury problem to have at this point in time because any of those options are good. I kind of like the option of having more pace in the team. Uh, I would love to see Leal kind of playing as like the off striker, play Hanny as like a false nine, even true nine, because like against a team like Red Bull, it's going to want to press. It's going to break up any possession we could potentially have. The faster we can break the lines, the faster we can play through them, the better it's going to be. So Hanny, who can like make through runs and break lines, Fafa, Schaffelberg, who can break wide. That seems so much better to me. So I would much. I know Gary's probably going to lean into his strengths, the things he likes. So he's probably going to play Teal Bunbury and Haney off of him. But I would love to see him go crazy and play both the fast wingers, Leal in the hole, Haney up top, and just like bypass midfield. Just let Sean Davis, whoever partner Sean Davis, just kind of work on the defensive side of things. Just bypass them as passing options. Over, just go straight through it because that's the one thing you're going to get from Red Bull New York is they're going to try to press. They're going to try to make you turn the ball over in dangerous spots. So just bypass it. Just go direct. Just go direct. Just go direct. Just try to beat them with direct passing. Two speedsters on the wing, Schaff on one side, Faf on the other. Leal and Haney just being creative maestros in the midfield. I would love that, but I don't think that's what we'll see. The big question is obviously going to be, is Annabelle Godoy going to play? It's one of the things from the first match you could see how much we missed him, where he was frequently out of the lineup with injuries last season. Sean Davis is solid. Sean Davis is the definition of a solid, good, competent MLS central midfielder, but Godoy can just do so much more than him. And like when they're side by side, it just elevates our midfield so much more. Dax can do that, but Dax doesn't have the legs anymore, and you're only going to get like 60, 70 minutes out of Dax, and you can't play him every game. Godoy had the shoulder injury late. Gary said he hasn't trained, but he didn't rule him out. He said it's going to be ultimately a pain tolerance thing for Annabelle. Can he play through it? But typically, if players don't train, Gary doesn't play them, so I would not expect to see Annabelle Godoy in that match. So, that being said, if our midfield is Sean Davis, Dax McCarty, or Sean Davis and Brian Anunga, let's just bypass the midfield. Let's just go direct. Let's put speed up top. Let's go for pace. Let's attack, 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 attack. Let's go all out attack. Fafa one side, Schaffelberg the other side. Leal is kind of like the 10/8.5. Mukhtar is like the 9/false 9, whatever you want to call it. Just go. Because, I mean, like, the way Red Bull plays, I can see them breaking up so much of our passing if we're trying to be like a little bit more deliberate in our passing. So let's just go over the top. Let's just be direct. Let's use the speed. Let's use the pace like we did last week. That's what I'd like to see. I don't know that that's what we will see just because, like I said, I feel like, whether this is accurate or not, I feel like Red Bull New York is always a team that gives us trouble. I don't know why, like if that's in my head or not. Um, but for sure that is be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout one way or the other. One team's going to, I can easily see it being like a 0-0 draw or like a 1-1 game, because I don't think like their style of play is going to be so much that they'll just blow us out or they'll win even, but it's going to disrupt what looked like a very first game for us. I like if I was going to give you a score right now, a 1-1 sounds like what I would predict for a score. Richard Greenberg in the chat said, "Do you ever make any MLS bets?" Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. I basically never bet on Nashville SC or really any of the teams I support, just because it always feels like it's a losing proposition to bet on the team you support, because it's like a double whammy. If you bet on your team and they lose, you lose twice. So like one thing I do bet a lot in MLS, if I do bet MLS, is both teams to score, because it just seems like MLS teams, there's always going to be like 9 out of 10 times it feels like both teams are going to get a goal in a game. There's rarely there. It seems like whatever reason, it seems like there's a lot less clean sheets in MLS than there is in maybe like other leagues, and that could be completely wrong in my head. That's just like an interpretation thing that I have in my brain where I'm like, feels like most games both teams find a way to get a goal, or it ends up being 0-0. I'm going to give you something, and this has worked on and off for me lately, that I saw somebody on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who it was because I would love to give them credit. But a really good, just across the board soccer bet to make on a game day where there's like a lot of matches. So, like a Premier League day where there's like 8 matches, or like MLS day where there's going to be like 5 or 6 matches. Pick out the three most competitive matches, most evenly matched matches. Certain sports books, you can find a bet that'll be like to be tied after 10 minutes. And if you can take the odds aren't good for that on one game, but if you can find 3, 4 games that you think are going to be pretty tightly contested and parlay them together, you can get that to up to like a plus 200, plus 150 bet. Where if you're like, yeah, this is gonna be a tight first 10 minutes of these 3 games, so it's gonna be 0-0. I mean, how many soccer games are 0-0, or at halftime even? So if you're just betting for it to be tied within the first 10 minutes, you're basically saying nobody's gonna score in the first 10 minutes. Is basically the bet you're making. So if you can pick out 3 games that you think are going to go that way and parlay them together, you can usually get that at about like a plus 150, plus 200 bet. That might be something I'm going to look at for the MLS slate tomorrow, because like I think it's still early season, still going to be tight, where teams are still feeling things out, not quite ready to completely unlock things. So that might be a bet to look at for the MLS tomorrow, is pick out 3 games maybe that you think will be tightly contested. If there's like a Red Bull NSC match. Like, I don't know that anybody is going to necessarily crack the code and score early in that game. And find 2 other games where you're looking at the 2 teams and thinking, I don't know that anybody's necessarily going to break this one open early. Parlay them together. I think FanDuel. I know FanDuel is one that does it. I don't know what other books off the top of my head that can do it, but if you can find 3 games, place a bet that will be tied or under whatever the goal, or under goals for the first 10 minutes, that's a pretty solid bet, just in soccer in general, not just MLS, just soccer in general, because usually if a team gives up a goal early, they're either a really bad team or just something completely crazy happens in the first like 10 minutes, because usually that first 10 minutes of a soccer game is always kind of like a weird feeling out period where both teams are trying to see what the other team's going to do, what the other teams are going to do, looking for the openings, trying to figure out where the exploitation options are going to be. So that's an interesting one I've been trying out lately. So that would be my best advice in terms of if you're going to make any MLS bets. I don't know that we know enough about any of the teams yet to place any like sides or anything like that. But like, I think, betting early unders, basically betting nobody to score in the first half, is probably a safe bet, because it feels like that's how it's going to go. Outside of teams like the mismatches that we've seen so far, like Seattle just Seattle might be the best team in the league. Colorado might be the worst team in the league. Stuff like that. Like if you see a mismatch like that, like try to find if there's an exploitation point in that. But like I think there's good. Like I think the thing about this season is just early out of the gates, it looks like it's going to be. I think a lot of teams are pretty solid this season. Like there's like 2 to 3 teams that I think are head and shoulders above everybody else. There's 5 or 6 teams that are really bad, and then everybody in the middle is going to be like really competitive with each other. Like, and even saying that, St. Louis is a team I would have expected to be really bad, and they went out and beat Austin FC in their first game ever. So it's one of the beautiful things about MLS is it's kind of got that American sports parity, whereas like in European soccer, you kind of know who's going to win most matches. Most 9 out of 10 times, you kind of know who's going to win, especially if it's a big team versus a small team. MLS, sometimes it's kind of a crapshoot, and that's kind of fun. That's kind of one of the things that I've really come to love about MLS. Um, but like I said, I would expect it to be like kind of a tight, condensed game tomorrow with Nashville SC and Red Bull New York. I would expect Red Bull to try to like break everything up, just try to destroy the game with their pressure, with their pressing. Um, but I mean, I like the options Nashville SC has in attack with their new pacey players, with Handy Mukhtar coming back to full fitness. So 1-1 draw feels like the right score, just because I don't think we've ever been that successful against Red Bull New York. But I don't know. We were a lot more impressive last week than I thought we would be in the first week. So hopefully we can keep that going. The next thing tomorrow night, UFC 285. I'm going to go straight from watching Nashville SC to watching UFC 285. Most excited I've been for a UFC show in a while, and it's very similar situation to, I'm going to talk about AEW a little bit later, but where UFC's had like a great string of shows for a while, like good fights, good entertaining fights, but like I'm finding out more and more that I'm more concerned with like the entertainment value, with the showmanship, with the storylines, than I am with just seeing good fights. I feel like you're always going to see good fights on any show you watch. It's very rare you can turn into like a MMA card, even if it's not UFC, and not see like at least a few really entertaining fights. But like what really separates, and this is true for professional wrestling, this is true for UFC, this is true for I think really any sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, entertaining competition is one thing, but you need the storylines, you need the entertainment value, you need that little extra something that like draws you in to really take it to the next level. And this is the first UFC card in a while that's like really caught my attention, and it's because 99.99 100% it's the return of John Jones. John Jones, who was, the pound for pound potential, maybe still best of all time MMA fighter. All his off the octagon issues, his, the way he would talk crap, the way he would build up these feuds with people. He was always so entertaining, and then he just vanished for the last 3 years. And if you're not familiar with the situation, basically from my understanding of it, the reason he hasn't fought in the last 3 years is a combination of lack of interest, and you can see that in the way he's had his I keep wanting to say off the field, but it's not a field, but outside the octagon issues, where he's kind of become a partier. He's more interested in like the lifestyle than actually like going out and fighting and being a champion. But also, UFC signed this deal with ESPN, where ESPN took over the pay-per-view rights for UFC, and what they did was they paid UFC a huge sum of money to where they control the pay-per-view. So UFC makes the same amount of money no matter what the pay-per-views do. So if a pay-per-view, if like only like 5 people buy a pay-per-view, UFC makes the same amount as if 3 million people bought it. ESPN's the one who's on the hook for trying to make money off the overall sales of the pay-per-view. So it kind of disincentivized UFC to pay some of their bigger stars, to book some of their bigger stars, to give them what they're really worth, because UFC was going to make the same no matter who was on the show. So that's why you haven't seen as many John Jones, Conor McGregor, like the legit, like true, transcendent, big MMA stars fighting as much. Um, and I think it's not coincidental that both of them are seemingly coming back to UFC right now, because I feel like it's been long enough that probably both of them, knowing the lifestyles that both those guys live, they're both probably starting to not run out of money, but needing that next paycheck. They haven't needed a paycheck for a while, and they both do. So I'm sure they're both going to get paid well for the fights that they have upcoming, but I'm sure what they were holding out for is not going to be ultimately what they got for this. So John Jones is back, fighting for the vacated UFC heavyweight championship. So he's moving up in weight class to fight Cyril Gagne, or Gon, Cyril Gon. That's probably not mispronounced. I'm probably butchering that, but it's such a weird match because it's exciting that John Jones is back. I mean, obviously it's a huge fight you want to see. Tornado Egger, hey, haven't seen you in the chat in a while. Good to see you, man. But it's such a hard fight because Cyril Gahn just got embarrassed in a fight he should have won against Ngannou recently. He's come back and won a fight recently, so you're looking at two guys who they're fighting for the heavyweight championship, and neither one of them really is like, you know, a legit contender for it, because John Jones has never fought at heavyweight. Cyril Gahn got beaten by the most recent heavyweight champion who, you know, didn't ever lose, but is just gone because he couldn't agree to terms with the UFC, and that's, I just said his name. What was his name? Holy crap. My brain just died. I just said his name. Ngannou. Wow, that was a dead spot. Ngannou. I mean, he's the lineal, unbeaten UFC heavyweight champion, but they wouldn't pay him. Once again, as I mentioned, he knows his worth. He knows what he's waiting for. Francis, thank you. Richard Greenberg jumped in. He's the UFC champion. They're not paying what he's worth because they don't need to, because they're going to make money no matter if they have him or not. And he's not at the point of John Jones or Conor McGregor. He's running out of money, so he's not having to beg for money. And he's also got this potential huge, maybe tentative showcase, weird, fake boxing match against Tyson Fury he could do. So you got John Jones, big draw. Cyril Gahn, good fighter, but is it really? Do you really going to think whoever wins that is really the heavyweight champion with, the situation, for instance, Ngannou? And UFC is going to ignore it. They're going to do the WWE thing where if you're not in there, they ignore you. They're just not going to talk about you. So they'll just act like John Jones or whoever wins the fight is the heavyweight champion, and nothing ever happened that was ever weird or different. But it's still entertaining because it's John Jones returning. He was the best of the best, undisputed, pound for pound, arguably on the pace to be the best MMA fighter of all time before he just kind of got caught up in other stuff and decided not to fight for a while. So good to see his return. I'm really excited for that. But I mean, does the fight really mean anything in terms of like if he wins a championship? Are you really gonna like be like, oh well, it's more interesting to see like moving up a weight class, having not fought in 3 years. What's he even gonna look like? The semi-main, Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. Shevchenko is like the most dominant champion they've got outside of Yang Weili. So, good matchup for her, getting their second biggest, most dominant person on the show underneath with John Jones. That'll get a lot, get a lot of eyeballs on her. I'm sure she'll be, make some new fans. She'll be a big star there. Would be shocked if she lost because she just seems unstoppable right now. Feels like we're going to an inevitable, like either like catch weight or multi-weight match between her and Amanda Nunes, because they're just the two most dominant women there are. So I mean, some point in time they're going to run out of people to fight, and so they're going to just have to fight each other. They're going to have to figure out a way to do each other. That's like kind of one thing that kind of sucks for the women. See, and maybe this is like just a misinterpretation of women's MMA versus men's MMA, but it feels like that's always what people want to go to with the women is like the women run out of contenders faster, so you just have to make them change weight classes. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure that this is me speaking from a position of ignorance, but I believe Shevchenko and Nunez have fought before, and I believe Nunez won. So, and I think that's maybe Shevchenko's only ever loss is to Nunez, but it was Nunez is bigger than Shevchenko, so it was like kind of a mismatch in that regard. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody knows, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of the history there. Just looking through the card, there's some names on the card. Cody Garbrandt, man, I was a huge Cody Garbrandt fan for a stretch right there, and then his jaw just went like he's one of those guys where like I hate to see him on the cards anymore because I loved him so much like at his peak, but he's just it's one of the things that like is hard about combat sports is like once guys go and they still have to fight because they still have to make money, they still have to keep going, and you just hate to see him keep fighting because like you develop like a a fandom for him. It's we haven't quite got there in other sports. I think NFL is kind of getting there with some of the guys like you see like Tua this year with all the concussions. I'm sure there's people who are like diehard Dolphins fans who would love Tua to still be their quarterback next year, or some who maybe wouldn't based on his performances. But there's definitely a contingent of I would expect Dolphins fans who are just like, man, we want him to be healthy. We don't want to see him get knocked out again. And that's how I feel about Cody Garbrandt. I was top of the food chain Cody Garbrandt fan. And I honestly hate to see him on this card right now because like the last few times I feel like I've seen him, I feel like he's just gotten just like brutally knocked out, and just, it's time to move on. Time to try to do commentary or try to find something else to do, man. Because I just don't want to see that guy get killed anymore. Derek Brunson, good fighter. I'm sure that'll be an entertaining fight. Jessica Penne is on like the super prelim card. That's low for her, but yeah. But I mean, this is a. I feel like the last like little stretch of UFC, you've really seen how they don't have to put on that great of shows on pay per view because they know they're getting all the money they need from ESPN because the deal is a flat deal. They don't make any more if there's like I said, 3 million buys, or if there's like 7 buys, they make the same amount because ESPN's paying them a flat rate. So this is, with John Jones on top, just because he's one of the biggest draws they've had. This is one of the biggest ones they've had. But there was a stretch like 2 years ago where they were putting on like the sickest cards. Every match was awesome. And this one, it's like, I'm sure people are like more hardcore into MMA who know all these people will tell me that like, oh man, all 5 main card matches are gonna be awesome. All of them are good, but it's like I said, and I'll get into this a little more with AEW later. I love MMA, I love UFC, but I need the story. I need the entertainment value beyond just it being a good fight. Call me a bad fan, say I'm not that into MMA, whatever you want to say, but like that's just like I look at this card and I know John Jones versus Cyril Gane is I want to watch that, but the rest of the card is just like what's the point? Like Shevchenko, I know she's really good. Like I'm not gonna buy this pay per view. I'm gonna find a local bar that'll be showing it because UFC pay per views are now like $80, so I'm not gonna pay $80 for this show. Like it's been a while since there was a UFC show that I paid $80 for. Richard Greenberg said, I lost interest after the last George St. Pierre match. George St. Pierre is the dude that got me into UFC. He was the man. Like, I like just his look, his attitude, his demeanor, his presence. I almost like wanted to like get into MMA, like actually like fight MMA watching George St. Pierre just because he looked like so cool, like such a bad dude. And like I knew he was like height, weight. I knew we had to like he wasn't like It's kind of like professional wrestling, like Hulk Hogan 6'5". I'm never gonna be 6'5". George St. Pierre, not that different like of a frame for me. So I was like, maybe if I committed myself, I could beat George St. Pierre. But then I was like, nope, never gonna do that. Don't want to get punched in the face. But George St. Pierre was the dude. He was my favorite. He was like the original guy that got me in the UFC. He was the guy. I was like, as soon as like I saw him, I was like, this guy is sick. And that's what like, and I think like some of this also has changed with UFC kind of taking some of the personality out with like the Viper kits, and before that it was the Reebok kits. Like George St. Pierre, those dudes back in the day, they came out with their own look, with their own style, going to like Montreal, going to Toronto, having George St. Pierre fighting those crowds. It was electric, and now everything's in Vegas, and Vegas is just like, it's all the celebrities, it's all the people with like a lot of money that can go to a show in Vegas. It's been a while since they did a show like that, which was like somebody's hometown crowd rooting them on. Like if this was like nobody wants to see Jones win. He's a heel, but I mean like if they do this like I'm pretty sure it's gonna be in Vegas, but I'm trying to think of like what an example they could do right now is like McGregor. If they ever did like a McGregor in like Dublin show, it would be electric. There's not many that are like that because there's just not many people right there who are that over in UFC right now. The way George St. Pierre was, where he was just like the most electric dude in Canada, where everybody in Canada was behind him. It's kind of a bummer, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun show. I can't wait to watch it. I have no idea what to predict on the show just because John Jones hasn't fought in 3 years. He's never fought at heavyweight. Cyril Gahn has been pretty solid for the most part, except when he got kind of picked apart and embarrassed against Francis Ngannou. So it's a hard show to predict, but I mean, I'm looking forward to actually having a UFC show that I'm somewhat interested in watching. So it'll be fun. Richard, have you ever went to a live MMA event? Yes. We had a UFC fight night here in Nashville. It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now. It was not much of anything. It was it was fun event to be at. We had really good seats. I was like the closest you could be to cage side without being like in like the floor where like kind of like the judges and like the UFC personnel and stuff is. Like we were like in the lower bowl right off the floor where like it's mostly like special guests like UFC personnel sitting. So it was awesome seats, awesome event, but it wasn't like we didn't get to see anybody like super cool. Like I think the main event was I can't remember who it was, but it was Oven St. Preux, who's like from went to UT Knoxville, so he's semi from the area. Actually, I want to say there was like two guys on the show that are now like bigger stars, but nobody had heard of them at the time. But I can't remember who it was because it's ones where like I've had people like say like, "Oh, did you not remember that so and so fought on that show?" And I was like, they were in like the second fight from the bottom, and now they're like. So I don't remember who it was, but there was a UFC show, like a UFC fight night here in Nashville, like 2017, 2018, somewhere in that range. Oven St. Preux was the main event, and I want to say there was two people that I've since been told were like big stars now, not big stars, but like have gotten bigger now that were on the kind of undercard of that show. But yeah, I went to that one. It was a lot of fun. They put on a great show. There was so much like cool promo stuff going around it. I wish they'd come back here again, but they seem to have outside of the pay-per-views, they haven't really gone back to doing the full like kind of touring that they used to do. Like they do like the pay-per-views are mostly in Vegas. They've done like LA, I think maybe a couple Texas shows. But most of the like the fight nights, kind of like the lesser cards, they're putting them on in their own venue at the Apex in Vegas, which I guess is, cost effective. But I mean, I think if they went back on the road or brought a show back to here to Nashville, it would do good numbers. I mean, it was a pretty packed house for that show in Nashville that night. So, I mean, I'd love to see it. I got a friend that somehow always gets, he's got a buddy that always gets him tickets to Vegas shows, but I never get invited to those, and it's kind of a bummer. Maybe someday I'll get invited to go with him to the Vegas shows, but we'll see. But let's move on to Sunday. Sunday. Two huge things. Same thing. We got a soccer game, then we got a combat sports show. The early thing, we've got Manchester United versus Liverpool. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about this. This is it's a weird spot. I feel like Manchester United is like kind of they're into like a good spot where they've won the Carabao Cup. They've got a trophy for the season. You know, everybody's really high on Eric Ten Hag. Seems like he's got the team playing the way they should. Something tells me we're in for something good. But I mean, there has to be a come down at some point in time. It can't all be like roses and, you know, going to Anfield, going to Liverpool. They're, you know, on their heels. They're desperate to get a good result. Just feels like a time where they're going to rise up. You know, we got the announcement this week, or today actually, that Bobby Firmino officially is confirming that he's not going to re-sign with Liverpool. So this is his kind of final hurrah with them. Definitely feels like a lot of weird stuff is going on for Liverpool. So there's one of two ways that things can happen for Liverpool, the way I see it. They're either going to kind of have a rallying cry of like, this is our last hurrah with this group, with this squad. We have to like push forward. We have to like really rise up and really go for it. And they'll come out in the second half of the season and have like a good fight, and they'll push themselves back into Champions League positions, finish top 4, top 3, top 2, or it'll just all come unglued, or everybody will just be like, this season's a wash. We're all just gonna fall apart. Let's just forget it. Let's all wash. So tomorrow is probably the match that's going to determine or really show. It's going to be, to me, more of, we'll learn more about Liverpool than we will about Manchester United tomorrow, because if they come out, if they fight, if they push, if they attack, if they go for it all, and they, you know, get a 3-1, you know, 2-0 win over Manchester United, that's going to show me that this is a Liverpool team that's going to fight and push and claw to get one last good season out of this kind of squad, this kind of era. But if they just like come out and crap the bed, it's going to be a long rest of the season for Liverpool. So I really don't know what to expect. You know, Liverpool in the league has looked like they're starting to like regain their momentum, but they're, you know, just a week ago they got smashed 5-2 by Real Madrid. Real Madrid just got smashed by Barcelona, who United just smashed. It's a weird trajectory to kind of like try to track who should be the best team in this whole situation here. I favor Liverpool. It's at Anfield. United has played so many games recently. They've got to have tired legs. They've got to be fatigued. It's hard to see them just like to keep this like crazy stretch they've been on going and going and going and going. So I'm going to, if I was a betting man, which I am, but I don't bet on my own teams, I would predict, you know, 3-1 Liverpool. I really think it's one of those games where like the fatigue that United's got to be dealing with, and just the backs against the wall, time to fight back mentality that could come from Liverpool is going to spring forward. So I got 3-1 Liverpool in that one. I'll have to watch that on delay though, because I have to referee 4 youth soccer matches Sunday morning. So my first game's at 10. I'm refereeing all the way basically till 5:30 Sunday. So I'm going to have to watch the United-Liverpool game on delay. Excited for that. I haven't refed since like November. It's been a long break from reffing for me. Like I don't really like reffing anything less than like fun, really good competitive games. And here in Tennessee from like November to February, like you're mostly going to be at friendlies, indoor, adult rec leagues, stuff like that. And that's just not, I don't know. I don't want to go out and ref that. So we're getting started into like our competitive season again. So I'm excited to have 4 games on the schedule for Sunday. But that does mean I will have to watch Liverpool, Manchester United in delay. And then Sunday night, AEW Revolution. And like I said, same kind of feel that I have with UFC, where like all the matches on this card, all the matches will most likely be entertaining, will be fun to watch, but from a storyline perspective, from an entertainment perspective, it's just it's not hooking me the way UFC has, or sorry, the way AEW has with basically every pay-per-view they've had in their entire run. Like I'm looking over the card right now, and every match looks like it'll be fun, it'll be entertaining, but it's like it feels like they kind of like have lost the plot in terms of like professional wrestling is a storyline industry. It's, match quality is great on the indies where it's just two guys you never heard of and you want to just see them go out there and like do crazy stuff and have a fun match. But it's like in an ongoing television product that you watch every week, you need more hooks. You need more things that grab you, more storyline. And these matches just don't have it. And there's some that have like, I know what they tried to build, but it's just like, it's so weird to me. Like, all right, so let's just go through the card and I'll kind of like, maybe be able to give a little bit more input into this as we go. So Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in a no holds barred match. So this one, a lot of backstory here, a lot of history here. They were part of a unit together with the old what was it called, the Jurassic Express, the with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy as the tag team champions, and Christian kind of as their mentor manager, and ultimately Christian turned on Jungle Boy, and he got Luchasaurus to turn on Jungle Boy. They seemed poised for a big singles match, and then Christian got hurt, so he got a win on the last pay-per-view over Jungle Boy. And they just kind of relaunched this kind of out of nowhere in the last 2 weeks, because Christian's only just recently returned. This is the thing, is like they just had him come back like 2 weeks ago, kind of lit a fire under it and brought back the feud, because Jungle Boy was kind of floating around. He was in a tag team with Hook. He was feuding with like the Firm and all this other stuff, and now like Christian just came back out of nowhere to restart their feud. And like, I feel like they had to have known the timeline of when Christian would be back from his injury, because he had a shoulder injury that like ultimately like delayed when they were going to have their match. But I feel like they had to know he was coming back sooner than they did. They should have brought him back like weeks ago, had him like be pulling the strings behind some attacks on Jungle Boy or something like that, and I just feel like they rushed it. This is like could have been a huge grudge match, has such a backstory, such a history with these two. They seem to rush it with Christian's return in the last 2 weeks. I think Jungle Boy Jack Perry has to win this one, because he lost in like a 2-minute match to Christian on the last one. So like, if you're just ever going to do anything with Jungle Boy Jack Perry, he has to get the win over Christian to move on to bigger and better things. The Trios Tag Team title match, the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks versus the House of Black. I mean, this is another one. There's no story here. The House of Black just started like doing like video promos where they're like interrupted the Elite promos, and just like the House of Black hasn't necessarily won any matches to qualify. Like, I don't know the last time I saw the House of Black, any of their members actually wrestle a match. They've done a bunch of like lights go out and they jump people or they beat people up. They haven't like won a match in forever. It'll be a great match. It's 6 really, really great wrestlers, so it'll be a really, really good match. But I mean, why? Why is this a match? Why? What's the story here? There is no story here. And the Elite is probably the biggest problem in AEW. I mean, like, since All Out, the Brawl Out, whatever you want to call it, where they had the fight with CM Punk, everybody got sent home, everybody got suspended, whatever you want to call it. They came back, no explanation for why they disappeared for a while, no storyline why they dropped the titles that they had immediately just won at All Out. There should have been something. There should have been some kind of explanation. There should have been some story. Where do these guys go? Why are they back? Why are they getting shots again? Why do we have to see 7 straight matches with them and Death Triangle? No explanation. They basically had no story since they've been back. They're just back. They won the Trios titles. They've done matches, and every time they've done a match, it's been like somebody just walked up and, hey, let's have a match. And they've been like, oh, cool, let's go have a match. That's not storytelling. That's not... At some point in time, we want to know what's going on, what the story is. We don't want to just see, oh, is the Elite versus X team going to be awesome? Yes. Do we need more than that? Absolutely. And that's the big problem with this match. Like, why are they fighting the House of Black? What's the feud there? What's the rivalry there? Why is the House of Black the #1 contenders for the Trios title? We don't know. It's just something that's happening. It'll be fine. But that match, more than any match on the entire show, is what I think is wrong with AEW right now. Why? What's the point? other than it's going to be a good match. That's not, I don't know. That's not a reason to book a match. Is, oh, it'll be fun. These guys will have a good match. Give us a storyline reason. Like the best match last year was Kenny Omega versus uh, Will Ospreay, and it would have been so easy to just like put those two on a show and say, this match is obviously going to be incredible. Let's just let them wrestle. But New Japan gave you the story. The story was Will Ospreay was super pissed that Kenny Omega was living this cushy lifestyle in America while he had to fight in front of crowds that couldn't cheer, while he had to break his neck to do whatever it could to get like polite claps over in Japan because of the COVID restrictions that were still going on in Japan. It was an incredible story for a match that didn't need a story. That's the difference here. AEW, I think they're just throwing matches out there and going, this is going to be a good match. We don't need a story. You do. You need to give us a story. You need to give us a reason why this match is interesting other than just these six guys are going to have fun in the ring together and it's going to be entertaining. Jamie Hayter versus Saraya versus Ruby Soho, three-way match for the AEW Women's Championship. This one they've tried to give a good story to, but like the women's titles just felt weird for a while. Like it's almost similar to like the way the world title kind of lost a little muster with the whole CM Punk thing. Like they were building up so much good stuff. Like Britt Baker had such a good run with the title, and then when Thunder Rosa won it, she was so good with the title. And then when she just kind of, when there was the weird kind of backstage politics, the rumors that she dropped the belt because she didn't want to lose to Toni Storm, and that kind of anytime like the drama like of the weird backstage stuff has kind of seeped through over into the real life, it seems like it's taken a little of the muster off the title. Like Toni Storm's run as champion was never as good as it should have been, which in turn led to Jamie Hayter beating her, not being as big of a deal as it should have been, at least in my head. This is just my interpretation of things. And so, like, I think hardcore AEW fans, like, really are, like, psyched about Jamie Hayter being the title, but, like, I weirdly feel like she's the least important person in this match. Like, she's just, like, she's good. She's got a good look. She's really good in the ring, but, like, I don't know. For whatever reason, this is maybe just me. I can't speak to it, but Jamie Hayter has never, like, really clicked with me in terms of, like, she's a huge big star. She's like, she kind of reminds me of like when Hikaru Shida had the title. Like Hikaru Shida was awesome, always had good matches, good presentation, great look, great in the ring. But I was always like, same with Riho. Like I don't know why. I, I feel like your champion, if you really want your championship to be special, your champion just needs that little something extra. And I could be wrong, but I don't think Jamie Hayter has it. So I'm not that interested in this. Like when Britt Baker had the title, I thought it was awesome. I thought Toni Storm had a chance to be that person. I thought Thunder Rosa had a chance to have that person, but then both of them just because of the weirdness of the way Thunder Rosa vacated and the way they kind of couldn't decide if Toni Storm was really the champion or not, kind of screwed everything up. But like, I don't know, Jamie Hayter just doesn't click for me. As that like, she's fine as like if you want your women's champion to be just somebody that has a belt and has a good match on the show, but like if you want the champions to be something special, and I would love for her to prove me wrong. Please, prove me wrong. But I just don't see it with Jamie Hayter. And Saraya, she's great. She's good on the mic. She's great on the mic. Long history in the wrestling business. Ruby Soho, cool, awesome. None of AEW's best women are in this match, in my opinion. It's a match for the AEW Women's Championship, and their best women aren't in the match. Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, Jade Cargill, any of them would be better options in this match for the Women's Championship than the three that are in it. So I don't really care. It'll be a good match. They're all good performers. It'll be fine. Chris Jericho, Ricky Starks, this will be fine. But like once again, this is one where it's like I don't fully understand why we're doing this, because Ricky Starks beat Chris Jericho clean like a month and a half ago. So I don't know why Ricky Starks has been fighting so hard to get another match with Chris Jericho. It makes no sense. Like, you beat him. You should be going on to bigger and better things. You should be trying to challenge for the TNT title. You should be trying to challenge for the. He had a match with MJF and lost. So, but I mean, he should go after, John Moxley. He should go after somebody higher on the card that he hasn't already beat. I don't understand why the storyline became Ricky Starks beat Chris Jericho and then was just determined to wrestle Chris Jericho again. That makes no sense to me. That the whole storyline has not made sense to me. Like Jericho made Ricky Starks try to go through a gauntlet to get another match. And Starks lost the gauntlet. He didn't even win the gauntlet. And then he still somehow got the match. So this is another one where it's like, what are you doing? Like, I think they put him in this match where with the gauntlet where they didn't want Ricky Starks to beat everybody, but they still wanted to get this match. So why did you put that gauntlet in there? It just there's so much stuff that they're doing that makes no sense to get to stuff that they don't need to do in the first place. Like, they don't need to do this match again. You already did this match. If you want to do this match on the pay-per-view, don't do it a month and a half ago. Like, figure out a way to build to doing it on the pay-per-view first. Like, they're doing things so much backwards. Like, I'll jump ahead. John Moxley, Adam Hangman Page. Awesome match. Two awesome wrestlers. It's going to be a Texas death match. They're probably going to beat the hell out of each other. It'll be insane. But they fought 4 times in the last 2 months. This is their 5th match. Why do we need to see this again? Why are we going to... And this is on the pay-per-view. What is the motivation to pay to see these guys fight again? And it's oh, it's a Texas death match. John Moxley bleeds in every match. We saw Adam Page attack John Moxley with barbed wire a week ago. They're giving too much away and doing too much. There was for the first 2 years, 2.5 years of AEW, no rematches. A match happened. The winner went on, did new things. The loser recycled, did whatever. Now it just feels like they've run out of people. They've run out of ideas, so they're just doing the same things over and over again. And they're just it's almost like what the problem with WWE was. At the peak terribleness of WWE 2 years ago was the fact that every Raw had the same 5 matches, and then they do those matches on the pay-per-view, and they do those matches on the next pay-per-view, and then they do those matches on the next pay-per-view. AEW is starting to do that. We're getting John Moxley and Adam Page for the 4th or 5th time in the last 2 months. And they'll be awesome. They're 2 good performers. They're going to tear the house down. It's a Texas death match. They're probably going to kill each other. But why? Why? The pay-per-views used to be big matches that you hadn't seen before that they were trying to build towards to do something. And that's the same problem with Chris Jericho and Ricky Starks. Literally, actually, every match... I think every match on this show, in some form or fashion, is a rematch. Because Christian Cage and Jungle Boy, they wrestled on the last pay-per-view. They did kind of a weird, smoke and mirrors thing because Christian was hurt and Christian won quickly. I don't think we've seen the Elite versus House of Black yet. But they didn't give us a story why that's an entertaining match. They just, put it together. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure Jamie Hayter has fought either Ruby Soho. Jamie Hayter has to have wrestled Ruby Soho at some point in time. And Saraya. And like I said, I'm not feeling any of them as top tier women performers. Jericho Starks. Starks beat Jericho clean a month ago. Joe Wardlow. Seen it. Why is this on the card? Seen it. Who cares? They've butchered Wardlow. I mean, man. Let's talk about Wardlow. Wardlow goes right into talking about MJF because Wardlow was supposed to be set up to be possibly their Goldberg, possibly their I don't know, that's the closest comparison I can think to. They almost tried to steer too much into it because I'm almost positive people haven't been honestly chanting Wardlow. I feel like that's got to be at least a little bit pumped in to try to get that, but they killed him so bad because the MGF win that he had should have set him up. They should have launched him on a trajectory, but like somewhere along the way they just lost track of like how to keep pushing him. And I think the MJF kind of like work, shoot, whatever was going on with like, was he gonna quit? Did he really quit? Screwed everything up there because then he became just like, it became a bigger deal what was going on with MJF than the fact that Wardlow beat MJF. But there was a great natural storyline to be done where Wardlow beat MJF. You could let Wardlow kind of go off, slowly build him up off to the side. MJF was a heel, so you could like let him snake his way out of, who cares that he lost. He could snake his way to winning the world title and eventually have them come back together again. Wardlow beats MJF to be the world champion, and it's all full circle once again. But MJF got, they let MJF do the stupid like CM Punk pipe bomb promo where he talked about how he was wronged and everybody got on his side, and they turned MJF face. Which once they turned MJF face, that killed Wardlow's momentum from having beat MJF. Then they let MJF go away for a while. He came back. He was way over. He was a big baby face. And they turned him heel again. This is so stupid. This is all so stupid. This is, seems easier than it should be. I mean, like I'm way oversimplifying this, but like, I honestly feel bad for Wardlow. I feel bad for MJF because like both those guys should be on a completely different trajectory than they are right now. But like things have just not gone right. Things have been mismanaged. AEW needs you as a writer. I can never write. I'm really good at like looking at when people do other things wrong and then coming back in and going like, "Hey, you should have done this." I don't think I'm as good as like coming up with ideas in the first place. Like I could go back and rewrite all the DC comic movies and fix them. Could I have written them from the get-go? No. But could I fix what they did wrong? Yes. I could come in and fix things. If there's a way to like make people forget what happened a month ago and like let me come back in and go, "Oh, let's do this now." Maybe, not so much. Also, Richard says, "I'm an old guy, but I want to buy an AEW championship belt." I will say that's probably the best thing AEW has going for it now is they have the best belts. I think the WWE belts are better than they were for a while, like when there was the spinner belt and like the copper like tag team belts. Their belts have gotten better, but the AEW belts are 100 times better. The AEW World Championship belt is the best looking belt in wrestling right now. The worst looking belt is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt. It looks like the old Divas Championship. I can't believe of all the companies that would script their belts, it was in shape PW. But whatever. The belt Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné just won the IWGP Women's title. Looks terrible. It's like a leather strap that has like a coin strapped to it. Like I don't know how it's this hard to like design good championship belts. Like make a big freaking belt with like a big platinum gold thing on it. It's not hard. It like we've had great title belts for 30 years and suddenly like there's so many ugly belts in wrestling right now. Disappointed, no pregame pyro footage from game. I got a little bit of it. I went out to the concession stand to get a drink because like, and I blame the weird MLS scheduling on this because like they'll list the game time as like 3:30. The game didn't start till 4, so we got to our seats at like 3:15. Sat there for like 20 minutes, and I was like, "Well, I don't know when the game's starting, so I'm gonna go back and get something to eat." And I was coming back to my seats as the pyro and the intro started going off for the game. So I got a little bit of it. Like I couldn't catch it because I was trying to like catch it as I was coming down. And I was walking, so I definitely missed some of it. But the pyro was awesome for the first game. Fireworks going off all around the top of the upper deck at Geo's Park. It was beautiful. Good job for Middle Tennessee Pyro on that one. But you can see I caught a little bit of it. I tried to catch up at the anthem too because I was like trying to like catch the singer. It's always hard because like, especially because our seats are in like a weird spot where like we're under the one awning and then the other awning across from us is like kind of blocked off. So it's one of those things where like with soccer and like dome stadiums where like when there's a covering over the stadium, it's not as easy to see the fireworks that are outside the stadium from inside the stadium. But whatever. But I blame MLS for having their weird scheduling thing where they say, "Oh, game stuff." Like tomorrow, Nashville SC is supposed to play at 6:30. I'm like 99.9% sure that game's starting at 7 o'clock. I don't know why MLS does that, but that just seems to be an MLS thing that they do. Whatever. LTC Pyro said worked our asses off, literally got everything done and tested 30 minutes before the match started and had zero breaks till after the match. Here's to you, my friend. You guys do awesome work. Sorry I didn't catch as much of it I would have liked to on it, but every Titans game I've seen, every that first game, the Pyro was definitely on point for this season. So hopefully it continues throughout the rest of the season. Let's wrap up. Let's talk about the rest of the show. I kind of got to rambling about like just general AEW complaints, but so Joe Wardlow, I kind of talked about it a little bit. Like why are we doing this again? I feel like they've fought like 5 times. Joe's dropped the TNT title to Darby Allin, won it back, and now Wardlow's coming back again. I don't care. I don't care. That's all been butchered. Moxley, Hangman Page, they're gonna kill each other in a Texas death match. I expect Hangman to win just because like he's the guy they're probably gonna need more from going forward. Moxley's done his run, kind of carrying the company. They need Hangman Page kind of probably as a contender to come after MJF. This tag team match, this is the stupidest thing on the whole damn show to me. This is the one that pisses me off more than anything else. So they had this great setup last year. FTR won the AAA tag team titles, won the Ring of Honor tag team titles, won the IWGP tag team titles. It was perfectly set up for them to be coming after the AEW tag team titles to complete like the ultimate, quadruple 4 titles, the biggest 4 titles they could get outside of WWE. And for a brief moment, they put the tag titles on the Young Bucks, which that's been like the big thing. They haven't come back to Young Bucks versus FTR in forever. They've been saving that match forever. Would have made so much sense to build to that being the match where FTR gets their 4th titles, completes the set, beats the Young Bucks, cements their place as like one of the best tag teams of this generation. And for some reason, the Acclaimed got over. The Acclaimed got over insanely. And I guess Tony Khan decided it made more sense. It was better for other stuff to put the belts on the Acclaimed. FTR have since dropped all the other tag team titles they had. They've just, I believe Dax Harwood has like some kind of injury, a pelvic injury or like a tailbone injury. So they're being given time off, and they've dropped all the titles they had. The Acclaimed went on to win tag team titles, which is fine because they were super over. They've been one of the hottest acts on AEW. And then you decide to have them drop the belts to the stupid ass boys that nobody even likes. Like it's one thing if you drop it to the ass boys aren't heels that are like heels that like over heels. The ass boys are like heels that just like everybody's like we don't want to see them. They're the go away heat, the X-Pac heat as it used to be called back in the day. And so they dropped the belts to the Acclaimed. I feel like it was just because they had nothing else going on in the tag team division, so Tony Khan felt like he had to do a switch to try to spark something, to try to create some interest in the tag team division. So now we've got the Guns, the tag team champions, defending against the Acclaimed, who didn't have to earn a spot in this match. Once again, used to be there was no rematch clauses, there was no rematches in AEW, but they got into this match just because the Acclaimed went, we're invoking our rematch clause, which used to not be a thing in AEW, but now apparently it is. Versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Love Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's my guy. Always going to be a backer of Jeff Jarrett, but I mean, is Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett a team that needs to be in a pay-per-view match for the tag team titles? And then you've got the 4th team in the 4-way match, Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, who entertaining as hell. Love those 2 guys. I think it's a clear example of like knew those 2 guys would be entertaining on the show, had to get them on the card somehow, so throw them into this tag team match. But I mean, what the heck? In terms of like This AEW tag team division was electric. Was electric 1 year ago. I mean, you had FTR, the Young Bucks, the Lucha Brothers. Holy crap! I mean, like, the Acclaimed on the rise. The Swerve in Our Glory, who they were the ones who maybe kind of came in and screwed everything up. But now you got the Guns, who suck. They're fine. I mean, they're fine. They're perfectly good. But I mean, like, why are they the tag team champions? Versus the Acclaimed, who should be the champions out of these four. Versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. What a terrible match. What a absolutely terrible match. I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be entertaining. Once again, this whole show will be entertaining. Every single match on this card looks like I can see why there will be entertainment. There will be value in each and every match. But in terms of, like, what's good, why is this something that I should pay money to see? The main event, MJF versus Bryan Danielson, aka the former WWE Daniel Bryan, in an Iron Man match for the AEW World Championship. This match is going to be awesome. There's just no way Bryan Danielson is going to do an Iron Man match and not have it be one of the most incredible matches you'll ever see. But I mean, the problem here is there's just no way I can believe he's winning this match. And they've changed the story of why this match is happening about 6 different times in the build up to it. Like, originally it was a feud over MJF's turning on William Regal, and now it's a feud over MJF's fiance broke up with him, and a couple weeks ago there was like a weird story about MJF's crashed a car or something. Like, they haven't settled on what the motivation is for this match. Bryan Danielson essentially has, like, he's come out in interviews. Like, this is one of the things, like, Tony Khan, I love that Tony Khan gives his guys the freedom to go out and do interviews and, like, speak freely, more so than, like, WWE guys are able to do. Like, that they don't have to, like, always be in character. But, like, Bryan Danielson's, like, been going out and saying, like, yeah, I'm out here having fun. I'm entertained. I'm hoping to, like, have a good match, and blah 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 blah, and and it's not on TV, but it's like in these, like, podcast or, like, Sports Illustrated interviews, and it's like, this is supposed to be, you're supposed to want to beat this guy's ass to win the world championship, to be the champion of the world. Aiden, yo, what's up? Good to see you in the chat. And you're out here just, like, outright, Bryan Danielson's outright in interviews going, like, yo, hey, I'm going to teach this guy how to work. We're going to go for an hour. It's going to be really, we'll see what he's got after an hour, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, at no point in this feud has Bryan Danielson said he wants to be the AEW World Champion, which just completely devalues the AEW World Championship, which should be the biggest deal, which should be the whole point of the match, should be that he wants to be the AEW World Champion. And if anything, he's diminished that being a part of the match. He just wants to beat MJF up because he once punched his friend and MJF said some bad stuff about his wife. It's like, I don't know. They've just gotten so off the rails with just, like, their storytelling. Like, I don't know, man. It's crazy how weird the vibe in AEW has been lately. Because a year ago, AEW was, like, the best thing I'd ever seen. I couldn't believe how good it was. I couldn't believe how great things were going. Like, I was like, I'm so glad I have AEW, because WWE sucks. And now it's like, well, WWE's figured a lot of things out, and AEW is just like, here's a bunch of good matches. Let's put them on a pay-per-view and ask people to pay $40 for it. Like, I may have missed something, but I'm almost positive at no point in time in the feud with MJF has Bryan Danielson said he wants to be AEW champion. And I think there's been multiple interviews where he's, like, talked about, like, just doing this match just for the entertainment value or just to put on a show or just to test MJF or stuff like that. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just crazy because, like, I love Bryan Danielson. Like, there's no doubt he's probably the best all-around wrestler in the world that we've had in, like, the last, like, 15 to 20 years. But I guess, and I'm looking at the card, I'm looking at everybody that's on the card, and somebody has to fight MJF, and you know you're not going to take the belt off MJF one pay per view after he won it. I don't know. That's the biggest problem they have right now. Is like you should be building up somebody to be the person who knocks off MJF because that should be your big star. You know, MJF's kind of the if they almost it seemed like MJF had a chance to be their big babyface star, but they decided they wanted to keep him a heel. Probably he is better as a heel, but I mean, like he was so hot, he was so over, he was had so much momentum, and now they got nothing. Like Hangman beats Moxley, you do Hangman MJF at the next pay per view. Who cares? Hangman's not a guy I want to see beat MJF. You know, Wardlow's lost everything. I don't know what it is. Dave Meltzer said this multiple times, and he's right. They got to figure out a new babyface. They have to find their new hot babyface because that's really what has changed the tide for WWE is that Sami Zayn and Cody, these two hot babyfaces that everybody wants to see succeed, has kind of lit a fire under WWE fans, and AEW just has killed all their babyfaces. It's almost like what WWE was doing for years. Is you know you had MJF, who everybody was kind of starting to get behind, and you're like had him turn heel and be a dick. And Bryan Danielson is always going to be babyface, or is always going to support him, but it's this point in time he's not the top babyface. Adam Cole is the one maybe they have because they brought him back since he's returned from injury, clearly trying to set him up as a babyface a little bit. They kind of teased maybe a future little bit of stuff between him and Britt Baker and MJF on Twitter already this week. He could be their only hope right now because like nobody else. I mean Jungle Boy, but I mean like Jungle Boy, they've just like they got to figure something out. Somebody's got to be their new babyface. Is it Jungle Boy, Hook, Adam Cole? Got to heat somebody up. Got to get somebody fired up. Got to get the crowd behind somebody. Because that's ultimately like what's going to build people up is getting that next big babyface that people want to see win the title. And I don't see who it is right now. But like I said, the matches are all going to be really entertaining. MJF versus Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. I'm never going to be able to revert my brain back to calling him Bryan Danielson. It is going to be a heck of a match. There's no way Bryan Danielson is not going to tear the roof down in that match. But storyline wise, I don't really have much reason to care about it. But I'm gonna watch. It'll be entertaining. I'll give you my feedback. I'll give you my follow up. I will probably. I might have some vlogs that'll go off while I'm watching it. It's gonna be a busy weekend. Thank you for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications so you never miss any updates or any notifications when we go live.